The first time I watched Alain Resnais last year at Marienbad, it was in graduate school, and I was taking a media theory and criticism class, and this was among one of the many films that we discussed in that course. And 10 minutes into the film, I was just utterly transfixed by its gorgeously composed black and white cinematography, its rather random voiceover narration, and its general strangeness and unconventional flair. This was definitely what you would consider to be an art house film, if you will. And judging from how the rest of the class reacted, opinions ranged from indifference to outright loathing to a general sense of suffice it to say, watching Last Year at Marienbad is far and away from your typical movie-going experience, and it's one of those films that you either embrace or outright loathe entirely, and there's really no in-between. But for me, there's a certain magic, a certain energy behind this film that makes it impossible to ignore. And if you haven't seen or even heard of this film yet, and you should, then let's take a step back and try to discover what this film is and what it isn't about. About 10 minutes into the film, after an introductory series of moving shots traversing the hallways of an ornate, palatial chateau, it soon becomes apparent that Last Year at Marienbad seems to lack the core fundamentals of a typical movie. For one thing, a crystal clear plot is noticeably absent, as are characters that are developed in any insightful manner. What we see instead are random scenes of poised men in dashing tuxedos conversing with sophisticated-looking women elegantly dressed to impress. The premise of the film is deceptively simple. A man attempts to convince a woman that they met each other before and promise to reunite the following year. She does not believe him, going so far as to claim he is mistaken in spite of his untiring insistence. His story is challenged by her at every step, and he molds and shifts various details to better suit his case, such as time, location, their moods at the moment, etc. Meanwhile, a third man, who is presumably the woman's husband, looms in the background like a phantom. With his gaunt facial features and lanky frame, he radiates intimidation wherever he goes, always setting the woman ill at ease. It is unclear if he is aware of the woman's affair with the other man, or if he even believes that they had an affair at all. On one hand, the film is about the fickleness of memory. Because of the conflicting accounts between the man and the woman, nothing said or seen in the film is 100% reliable. Their alleged conversation unfolds repeatedly throughout the course of the story, transpiring in one of the chateau's baroque rooms and grand staircases, or the expansive courtyard with geometrically cut shrubs that cast no shadows. The woman wears an elegant black dress, or is it a white gown with thin billowing sleeves? He shows the woman a photograph of herself sitting alone on a bench outside the manor, but is that valid proof? Did the woman's husband shoot her? And if so, was it because he learned about her alleged tryst with the other gentleman? A brief scene depicts the woman sitting in her wide, white-colored bedroom, recoiling in fear as the man advances towards her. She knocks over a glass and it shatters on the floor. Did something happen? Is it possible that their supposed meeting was so traumatic last year that she's struggling to forget all about it this year? We simply do not know. This lack of narrative clarity has undoubtedly annoyed many viewers. Those expecting a conventional movie may see Last Year at Marienbad as a serenade to pretentiousness, a complex bore that's just one of those, quote, bougie Victor movies, as one of my friends would put it. Those same folks may also take umbrage at the stilted, detached performances from each of the film's actors. Indeed, the film is anything but a piece of casual viewing. Director Alain Resnais and screenwriter Alain Robbe-Grillet demand a great deal from the audience, refusing to define the film's trio of characters by exploring their backgrounds or giving them concrete motivations and desires. The man, the woman, and her husband are blank slates. They are whatever we choose to consider them as. Now, regardless of any negative assessments one may have of the film, it cannot be denied that this movie supplies style in spades. Director of photography Sacha Vierny was a regular collaborator of Resnais, providing cinematography for one of the director's other noted works, Hiroshima, Mon Amour. Vierny's astonishingly gorgeous black and white visuals in Marienbad are a sight to behold, especially on Blu-ray. The wandering, weaving camera work demonstrates how a filmmaker should artfully utilize the 2.35:1 widescreen aspect ratio. Now, one could ignore the film's story and appreciate the film strictly on its technical merits alone, perhaps even gaining some inspiration on cinematic form in the process. Periodically, the film calls attention to its unconventionality through an unwinnable card game presented by the woman's husband. The game consists of two players removing cards or matchsticks from a series of rows, and the player who removes the last object from the table loses. Oddly enough, the gaunt man wins every single time. His opponents are befuddled. Both the players and the onlookers may strategize and speculate every possibility, but the results are always the same. A few separate instances see the three main characters pontificate the story behind a statue of a heroic man standing in front of a damsel. What the game and the statue imply to the viewer is that there is simply no point in figuring out the overall meaning of Last Year at Marienbad. In fact, there could very well be no meaning whatsoever. The real exercise lies in asking questions, not seeking answers. Distributors of the film were so appalled by the film that they did not want to release it initially. Had their wishes been granted, we would have been deprived of an enthralling work of art. And just what is art if it does not intellectually stimulate? Indeed. Last Year at Marienbad is a film that can just as easily baffle and frustrate viewers just as much as it can captivate and engage audiences, and it's a film that is guaranteed to leave an indelible impression regardless of your opinion. And if you have seen this film before, then please, I would really like to know what you think, so please leave your thoughts on the comments below or send me a friendly tweet. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I'm Victor Omoayo, and you can find more video essay goodness right here on the Victor Omoayo channel.